welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm Matt Delaney. Joining me this week, Russell Glasser.
Hi, folks.
And playing our intro, the greatest drummer who's ever lived.
Yes. And pretty good lyricist, although with some unfortunate influences.
Yes, but we'll get to that shortly.
So let's get to objectivism. You can follow me, if you want, as usual, in the Atheist Experience blog, atheistexperience.blogspot.com, where I've posted a bunch of links for your enjoyment. And the first one was a link to the article on objectivism. So I'll give the really simple explanation of what objectivism is. From the Wikipedia article, Ayn Rand's philosophy is based on three axioms: the axiom of existence, the law of identity, and the axiom of consciousness. The axiom of existence is, existence exists. The law of identity is A. That is, objects are always equal to themselves. And the axiom of consciousness is, consciousness exists. These are all things, I mean, they're axioms, okay? I would consider them pretty much no-duh assertions. I mean, I wouldn't yet consider them the foundation of some very insightful philosophy. I think you can make a case, and Ayn Rand was an atheist, and I think you can make a case that some of where she's going with this is to sort of separate her views about objectivity and the real physical world from supernaturalism. And I think this is the part where you and I would heartily agree with anything that Ayn Rand might have to say. But from there, she's going to take it on to a bunch more assertions, which I'm going to get to. This is from the Objectivist newsletter in 1962. They're sort of the basic principles of objectivism. Number one, reality exists as an objective absolute. Facts are facts, independent of man's feelings, wishes, hopes, or fears. Pretty
Yeah, I think for the most part, I'm on par. I'm on board with that one.
Number two, reason, the faculty which identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses, is man's only means of perceiving reality, his only source of knowledge, his only guide to action, and his basic means of survival. Again, I can't really complain yet. Okay, number three. Man, every man is an end in himself, not the means to the ends of others. He must exist for his own sake, neither sacrificing himself to others, nor sacrificing others to himself. The pursuit of his own rational self-interest and of his own happiness is the highest moral purpose of his life. Okay, here's where I start to get shaky.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that I'm necessarily complaining about what she's chosen as her values. I mean, I do have some misgivings about it, but it's not so much that I have a problem with in number three. It's the way that she presents it as basically a basic, obvious fact, a truism. A couple of months ago, for the last couple of months, I've been having an exchange with Chuck Colson, that you might know. If you check the blog under the Chuck Colson tag, you'll see that we're now up to 3 total posts that have been written by Chuck Colson in response to me. And I'm trying to come up with a comprehensive response to him. But one of the things that I hit him on in reviewing his recent book was that he seems to have, well, first of all, he, very much like Ayn Rand, talks a lot about objective reality. He thinks that the problem in the world is all these postmodernists who go and say there's no such thing as truth, everything is subjective, yada, yada, yada. And I mentioned in my response to him that this is a point where he and I really agree, up to a point. The problem is, he takes this statement that there is objective reality, and then he just runs wild with it by talking about the Bible and stuff, and talking about how obviously it's true that Christian values are the best values. That's not obvious at all, because while I think that there is objective reality in the world, there's also stuff that happens inside your head, and most of the things that you value are in there.
Not only is it not obviously true, or not only not obvious, I don't think it's true.
Well, yeah.
And I think that we could debate many of the fundamental moral and ethical tenets of Christianity, and have countless times on the show. To the kind of flat assertion that it's so obvious that Christianity is the one true moral guiding path. I mean, it's just wrong on all counts. And we don't even need to spend any time going into slavery, right? Infinite punishment for finite crimes, the idea that one person can be held responsible for somebody else's crimes, just start to finish, right down the doctrine. And not to sidetrack everything,
sure.
If you go to ironchariots.org, the counter-apologetics wiki that I started, that Russell did a lot of work on as well, and there are other people who are working on it now. I'm not, but I did a deconstruction of the Sermon on the Mount, because this is a passage that Christians generally think or view as the greatest thing anybody's ever said. And I'll freely admit that there are some good things within the Sermon on the Mount, far fewer than most Christians would claim. And I did a verse-by-verse look at this to say, is this really the greatest thing anybody ever said? Some of this is common sense, some of it's just wrong, and some of it's bad advice. And if this is the kind of information that you get from your God incarnate, I'm unimpressed. But back to objectivism.
Okay, well, getting back to Ayn Rand, I just want to point out that this is a place where I have some misgivings that Ayn Rand might start to veer off into Chuck Colson territory, because to say that every man is an end to himself, and he must do this and he must not do that, seems to be wandering into the territory of mixing up values and the objective reality, which she just spent the last two points talking about.
Yeah, and there's a huge flaw in that third one, or a couple of huge flaws, I'd say, in that third one. One is, as you pointed out, this must do, that kind of almost dogmatic assertion. The second one is that he shouldn't sacrifice himself for others or others for himself, and the justification of this is the pursuit of his own rational self-interest. And yet, rational self-interest is not clearly defined within this context. I mean, what you may consider to be in your best interest and best self-interest and consider it rational, someone else might object to.
Let me throw out an example. What if a guy wants to sacrifice himself for somebody else? Well, who the hell is Ayn Rand to tell him that he can't do that?
Well, I mean, it would be a free expression of her opinion that he is acting. He is not acting consistently with her moral values. Right. But we haven't gotten to a point where we can say, oh yes, I agree that you're correct on this.
Yeah. Well, I'll get back to this, but then we get to something else. And before I get to point number 4, let me make a pledge. I disagree. Ayn Rand is in a lot of ways the intellectual forebear of a lot of today's libertarianism. And I think for people who've listened to this show and the nonprofits before, it's no big secret that I'm not really into libertarianism. But my pledge today is I'm going to try not to too much get into a critical thing about libertarianism, because I really want to focus on Ayn Rand's weird definition of what objectivity is, and then get into some of the strange cult-like practices that seem to spring up around her.